The youngest one I met was 9. Her name was Tammy. She was a drug addict. She was from a reserve out of Alberta, and she was working for her father, who was an alcoholic. There's been lots of 11 and 12-year-old kids, 13 years old, working with their mothers. Sometimes it's a generational thing. It's okay for mom. I know one woman who says, a family that prostitutes together stays together.
Well, I want to make a difference, I really do, and I know that sexual exploitation is a big problem in Victoria especially, and it kind of opened my eyes being at this conference to exactly how big of a problem it is and the ramifications it can have on someone's life. And I just want to be here to try and help in whatever way I can, even if that's graffiti. I want to try my best because it's something that really bothers me, and it should bother everyone.
While real progress has been made since the first World Congress, there are indications that sexual exploitation of children is on the increase and new forms are emerging. And there's just no question that that's true. And so in a sense, we're just on the threshold of dealing with the issue.
I've seen children as young as 8 being sexually exploited, exchanging favors for small bottles of solvents, solvents that not only corrupt their morals, but also rots the brain. And it's unbelievable to think that there are individuals out there in our society who would prey on children.
I'm with the Prostitution Awareness and Action Foundation of Edmonton, and I've been there since 1998. I'm a survivor of street prostitution. I've been off for 9 years, and very much have always wanted to work with sexually exploited youth, just to make sure that they don't go through what I had to go through for so many years.
Just making my story known to my children and having them understand every aspect of it instead of just the glamour parts that people tell you about. That might prevent it, because I never had that. My mother never talked to us about anything.
My story starts off as at 2 years old. I was being sexually abused. My mother was dating a man who was a sexual predator. I started being sexually abused at 2 years old and up to the age of 9. By different people. With the same man was until I was 6. So I was introduced to sex at a very, very young age. And I was bounced around a lot, from foster home to foster home to foster home. I think maybe about 11 or 12 of them. Where they finally found me a nice foster home, and I lived there for a year. Where again I experienced sexual abuse again with my foster father. He raped me while I was sleeping. And sorry. I could not sleep on my bed because I felt so gross. Next morning, I called child welfare. I ran, and I was only wearing a t-shirt and underwear. I wasn't wearing no shoes, nothing. I just got the hell out of that house. And I went and I called the police, and nobody believed me. Child welfare didn't believe me because of the fact that I had been sexually abused so many times in my life, they thought I was making it up. And I was trying to get off the streets and, you know, whatever. And I stayed in Edmonton for about, I don't know, a week. And I ran away from there and went to Vancouver and started working the corner in Vancouver. That's where I first, you know, started actually putting myself out on the street and selling myself. And I lasted there for about a year and a half to almost 2 years. And then I decided that I didn't want to work the street anymore, that I wanted to get out of doing that because I was just not happy with myself. I was crying into my pillow and biting it every time I would come home, and I would have all this money, thousands of dollars, and not feel good about having it. You know, it felt dirty to me.
Similar story. We both started sexually exploiting our youth and our sexuality because we were both looking for acceptance. We were both looking for that sense of belonging, and we both found it on the streets. It screwed us up, it lowered our self-esteem, it lowered our self-respect. So basically, as everybody knows, sexual exploitation of anybody, youth or adult, is very detrimental to their personal development. Don't get caught up in the pretty woman fantasy about it, because all that was just baloney. So Russell, signing off.
I've been educating for 4 years, like medical students, nursing students, justice, every level of justice, actually, probation officers and lawyers, judges, anybody I can, just the general public, the Rotary clubs. I am an overnight care worker, and these youth, you know, some of them have just come off the streets, or some may have been off the streets for quite some time, but they're still working through a lot of issues, simply because it takes at least 7 years for somebody to feel good, just to get to a point in their life where they can have a life. So what I try and do is to take the nighttime shifts, because that's the worst time for somebody who's been entrenched in the streets. It's the time when they're bored, they're lonely, when they're craving the excitement. So it's really important to me to be there at that time of the evening for them, to help them with their issues and to talk. Hidden away in the dark corners of our mind, we know it's there, but we can't face it, no.
I would like to say, like, don't get involved in it, but, you know, everyone's got to choose their own path, and, you know, if when things get too rough, at least have enough, you know, sense to listen to that inner gut feeling that you have from God, or like I like to say, it comes from God. Not to pull out as soon as you start feeling that it's too much, and that you do have somewhere to go if you need some help.
The women working out there aren't doing it for money, and they're not doing it because they like sex. They're doing it as people who are hurting and who are desperate.